Alright, we're going to try and install the two hinges for the kitchenette, and of course my little helper here is trying to help, but she's not being very helpful, she's just panting a lot. We went to Home Depot to get a couple of supplies, but we found this little thing that's going to help us a lot with putting these hinges in. It's actually a little right angle driver that'll change the angle to drive right angle so that we can get it in this tight area here to screw this part of the hinge in. So this we just picked up at Lowe's. It's 20 bucks. It's just a little DeWalt right angle impact attachment, and this is the mother of all hinges. I've never even seen a hinge this big, but I'll give the part numbers later when we do the attachments for the videos. But this surely is the mother of all hinges, I tell you. 500-pound rated. And this is what we're going to try and install two of them now in for the kitchenette. And what we did was we just cut these little spaces. I've cut 6 of them. We're using these little spaces to put in here so that when we sit the hinge in, it's going to be at the same height. And don't forget what I told you before, this one is going to be slightly lower than this one, so there's no chances of the two screws meeting head on when they go from the two different directions. So I'm actually going to need my wife to help me get this in, so we won't be able to record the video at the same time, but all we're going to do now is sit this hinge on top of these spaces like that, and then we'll proceed to put the 6 or 7 number 10 countersunk screws in, and we'll do that for both sides, and we'll come back and show you the video once they're installed. Alright, so the moment of truth is here. This is our little kitchenette. We actually managed to get this one polyurethane 3 coats. Unfortunately right now it's trying to snow. It's actually little snowflakes, so it's not making this job easy. You're looking at it 180 degrees. It's actually got to be flipped so that this faces the other direction, but we're just showing this for the basic construction. But really this is made out of just a tiny bit over 160 by 60 inch cabinet grade Baltic birch plywood sheet. It's a fairly simple construction, and like I said earlier, one single element wouldn't necessarily be deemed a strong construction if you spoke to a carpenter or whatever. We're just not carpenters, but when you combine it all, it's more than adequate. I would say it's going to be bulletproof for the life of the time that we have the van. This will not come apart. We've got this Everest Coleman Camp Chef cooktop. Like, this is really a glorified tent. There's not going to be any installed propane. There's not going to be any installed kitchenette. It's not going to look absolutely beautiful, but it's going to be functional. And right now we've attached it with 4 magnets, which we'll show you later, screwed to the top. So it actually locks in place pretty hard, but it can be just slid off and pulled off if you want it off. So there's 4 magnets that are screwed to it. The basic construction of this whole Yeti drawer and the cook drawer is pretty simple. If I flip this up a little bit, you'll see that there's a 1/2 inch plywood as the bottom, and then we've taken 4 pieces of inch by 3/4 pine. We've lined the wood base with it, screwed that in and glued them with Tech screws. That gives us a good solid base attachment from the floor of the cabinet to attaching the sides. Then we've taken all the sides of the cabinet and we've actually glued them and screwed them to that pine that's going around the bottom, and that gives us a solid construction there. And then to tie all the corners in, we have no dovetail joints or anything like that. We just don't have that ability. And we'll try and show you a close-up later, but in here is some right angle aluminum that we've pretty well got holes drilled at it's 1 inch from the end, and then every 4 or 5 inches, depending on the length of the piece of aluminum. And that's screwed in and tying all the bits and pieces together so that no single joint in this thing, it would be like what I would deem to be, you know, a bulletproof strong joint. But when you combine all of them, it's a little bit like Lego, and the final construction is going to be very, very solid. This thing ain't going anywhere. It's very solidly constructed. So we're about to try and see if it fits in the van. That's actually the moment of truth, because there's only the tolerance is only approximately 4 millimeters of tolerance that we can be wrong on. So we're going to put the video camera down for a minute, and we're going to try and fit this in the van. Hopefully we come back and show you a few close-ups and show you it installed in the van. Alright, so the first miracle is the drawer fit nice and tight. Not overly tight, but it slid in there nicely. Like I said, we only really had basically 3 to 4 millimeters of clearance for each drawer. That's as much as Headache says that you can have, the manufacturer of the slide. Unfortunately, these slides don't unclip to pull out the slide and then say mount it to your cabinet and then slide it back in and clip it in. They don't pull out, they don't release. So what we've done to fit this up, it's the same as what we did for the Yeti drawer, is we wanted 1/2 inch clearance at the bottom. So I've got some 1/2 inch scrap plywood that I laid along the length of the cabinet on the floor. Then we set the drawer on top of that. So that gives us our 1/2 inch clearance. So right now it's sitting on the 1/2 inch plywood. We got it out far enough that it's balanced and straight, but yet we can slide the slides out and get the first 4 screws started. Once we have the first 4 screws started, we'll keep sliding out bit by bit and keep getting more and more screws, and then eventually we'll slide out that spacer plywood that we got in there. So we got some number 8 Phillips head stainless steel 3/4 inch screws, and we're going to screw every single hole. Where the fun starts is on this outer side, where we're going to have a tight issue at the back end. It's just, it needs a right angle drill to get in there to get them installed. But here we go, we'll install everything, and we'll see where we go from there. Our hardest, or one of the more difficult things with these drawer slides and being in position, was actually getting access to the screw holes that are out here. We bought this little right angle contraption. We did have a right angle drill, but even that was actually a bit fatter than we could fit in there. So luckily we found this DeWalt thing at our local Home Depot, which is a right angle, and basically it turns the drill. You do have to hold it while you're turning it, but this is the only way that we've really been able to get access to these outer holes. And don't miss a single screw. There's about 10 screws per slide. Get every single hole, because you've got a lot of weight. So we're trying to get that into this little tiny space here to get the screw in. And it's almost blind because you really can't see, so you just have to kind of do it blind. Alright, the slide is in. All the screws are in. It slides in and out good. We've got to install a locking mechanism both for it being fully extracted, and we also have to come up with a little locking mechanism to stop it from moving when we're actually cooking. So we're going to put some sort of locking mechanism at the back here that we can just reach in and latch in place so it stays locked. We haven't designed those yet. Here's our little camp shift. We've got the magnets on top, and it's as simple as putting it in place, positioning it, and that's it. And it ain't moving, it's stuck in place. So once we put the locks to lock the whole drawer in place, both extended and retracted, and figure out if you got a little thing, scissors, cutting board, or sink area, whatever we want it to be, and this will all slide underneath the bed, just like that.